Hello and welcome back to another episode of the For the Property Investor podcast. And we're here with the weekly news. And the only reason I know that is we've got Mr. Nick Bendall here. And he's the man that brings us the news. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Owen. I would have thought your weekly calendar reminder would be another reason why you know that this is the weekly news.
Oh, stop being so practical, Nick. I'm trying to have some fun here and be entertaining because frankly, this might be the only entertaining part of the next 20 minutes or so.
Well, it's good to know one of us is coming in here with high expectations. So this potentially could be the highlight.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. It all depends on how exciting the news is today. In this weekly news session. But we'll find that out in the coming minutes. But what's been happening in your week for the past week, Nick?
Well, as you know, my business, Hunter and Scribe, we are a copywriting agency. We write content for lots and lots of mortgage brokers. And I was very curious to see the recent MPA top 100 brokers ranking, just to see who was on the list. And I discovered that 21 of the brokers on the list were clients of my business, Hunter and Scribe.
Wow. So you're responsible for 21% of the top 100 brokers.
Well, I think they probably deserve more of the credit than me, those 21 brokers.
Oh, no, I'm giving you all the credit, Nick.
Okay,
you deserve it.
I will contact them and let them know that their success is all because of me and has nothing to do with them. And we'll see how many of them are my clients at the end of the day.
Yes, and that's pretty good. Congratulations. Yeah, I assume this is going to be in all of your marketing from now on. 21 of the top 100 brokers are clients of Hunter and Scribe.
Well, possibly. On the other hand, I am kind of a bashful person, and even though you're very kindly giving me credit here, I feel like if I'm going to trumpet this success, it should be more their success rather than my success.
Fair enough. Well, it's anything else happened in the past week for you, work-wise?
Nah, I mean, there have been some other things, but I don't want to spend a week talking about my week. I'll just give you that one highlight. And what about you and your national property management business, Leafield?
Yes, we've been very busy here getting lots of leasing done. We've got our new leasing manager who has started in the past week. So she's getting familiarized with all of our processes and procedures and how we work. And that will work well. Apart from that, just getting in, everyone's getting stressed about the coming festive holiday, and which makes everyone think that the world is ending, and because everyone stops working for a couple of days. So yeah, it's but yeah, rightfully so. There's things that need to get locked in before Christmas. So yeah, busy trying to get those things done.
Well, shall we move on to the news stories? And of course, this is putting a lot of pressure on me to make sure that they're actually good.
Yes. What's in the news this week, Nick? And it better be good.
Well, our first story, which you may or may not approve of, is lower income buyers have access to new housing incentive. The federal government's shared equity scheme, called Help to Buy, has gone live as of December 5, making it easier for people on lower incomes to enter the market. Under Help to Buy, the government contributes up to 40% of the purchase price for new homes and up to 30% for existing homes. Help to Buy is available to all buyers, not just first-home buyers, provided they put down a deposit of at least 2% and earn less than the income thresholds. which are $100,000 for singles and $160,000 for couples. Buyers make mortgage repayments on their share of the loan only. Buyers must repay the government when selling the home, although they also have the option of buying out some or all of the government's stake while still living in the home. Owen, the federal government claims Help to Buy will improve housing affordability. Are they right?
I think to some point they are. It's for some people who, as long as they qualify in a way which is in limited numbers to be able to help those people who are in a position where they can definitely afford it long term, and we're not just providing another layer of welfare system where the government ends up owning 40% of the whole property market. We certainly don't want to see that, because then the government's just propping up the whole economy at that point, which some would say they're already doing. But yes, we want a safety net in this country for our welfare system. I wholeheartedly believe in having a welfare system as a safety net, but certainly not as a retaining wall. And yes, as long as it's a safety net, Nick.
Critics argue that Help to Buy, in combination with the expanded 5% deposit scheme, will materially increase demand for entry-level homes and therefore make those properties more expensive. Is that a fair criticism?
Definitely with the 5% deposit scheme, it's certainly having that effect on the property market in those lower price points. And whether this Help to Buy scheme does so as well, I think it's very limited in numbers from my understanding of it.
10,000 places a year.
Yes, and there's fairly tight restrictions on the qualifications to be able to do that. So I think that would have limited effect, and I really think the 5% deposit scheme should have been limited the way it was previously, in terms of price points and income levels. So they've really got a two-tier system here, and I think the 2% scheme is really replacing the old 5% scheme.
Let me throw a more philosophical question at you. The federal government and state governments have all these housing incentives. Do you think government should stop providing financial assistance to the demand side of the equation, i.e. buyers, and instead redirect that assistance to the supply side of the equation, i.e. developers?
Yes, I think that's what's needed for the property market and the Australian economy right now, is a helping hand for the supply side. We've got a lot of issues with developers and builders getting started with projects so that we can provide more supply into the marketplace. It's pretty dire out there with increasing costs, red tape, and also more difficulty to be able to get funding. Without funding, none of these projects will get off the ground. So yes, while I do support having a welfare system in this country, yes, providing assistance on the demand side of the property market is not doing anyone any favors.
One thing that gets my goat is when people talk about greedy property developers. Property developers are like any other business person. They're no more or less greedy than content writers or property managers or dentists or plumbers or any other business person. The reason that the term greedy property developers annoys me is not just because I think it's unfair, but I think it also, because there's this perception out there that property developers are just big and rich and greedy, the idea of giving any sort of assistance to a property developer would probably be political poison. Now, I'm not saying that developers should receive any assistance. Ideally, I would like to see no one receive any assistance at all and just let market forces do as they please. But if we are going to have the government intervene in the market, I think we should at least consider an intervention on the supply side to not in order to make property developers more profitable, but in order to help them increase supply and therefore put downward pressure on property prices for everyone else.
Yes, and we're certainly not talking about financial assistance to developers. Let me make that clear. And it's we're talking about assistance to be able to get developments off the ground sooner, which means cutting government red tape and also getting finance and insurance easier to get approved for these developments. So there needs to be certain requirements. I know the New South Wales government has certainly made steps to be able to help do exactly this, but there needs to be more done for it. And I unfortunately feel that the steps to be able to help buyers get into the market is just a vote buying exercise, and it's not really doing anyone any real assistance.
Well, that's our first story done. How did I do with that first one?
That was pretty good, Nick. Yeah, let's see how we go with the second one, hey?
Okay, kind of damning me with faint praise there. Let's move on to the second story. WA aims to lure investors away from Airbnb. Western Australia has attempted to ease the pressure on its rental market by extending its short-term rental accommodation incentive scheme. Under this scheme, property investors can receive $10,000 if they transfer their properties from the short-term rental back to the long-term rental market and sign a rental agreement lasting at least 12 months. Investors receive $4,000 once their application is approved and $6,000 once the rental agreement reaches that 12-month mark. This scheme, which was originally introduced in 2023, has now been extended to the end of February 2026. Perth's vacancy rate is just 0.7%, according to SQM research. Owen, what do you think of the short-term rental accommodation incentive scheme?
Yeah, it's not a bad one. It's a way of being able to impact the supply side of rental properties in the marketplace quickly, and because a short-term rental, it can be converted pretty much instantly from one day to another into a long-term rental. And it can be, and you could have a tenant moving in within a week or two without too much of a problem. So it's a nice, easy, quick way of doing that. And yeah, so it's a good one.
$10,000 though, that's a big incentive. If a landlord was getting, say, 20 grand a year, that's, well, 50% of that, 30 grand a year, that's 33%. That is a big incentive. I'm wondering if the government needs to pay such a large incentive, does that suggest the local rental market is broken in some way?
Well, it just means it comes back to what we were just talking about in the previous story about supply. There's not enough supply. So if they can boost the supply side of things, and yes, $10,000 is a good chunk of money, but it's only a once-off from what I just heard in the story. So it's not like they're getting it every year, but it's meant to be able to help fill a hole. And that would probably roughly be what the investor would be foregoing in possible income by converting it from short term to long term. So it's really just compensating in a short term period. Yeah, they've only extended it to February next year now, so it's only another short term period. So it's not a forever thing. And hopefully within the next 12 months or so, I'm sure they won't fix it in the next 3 or 4 months, but hopefully over the next 12 months, they can get the supply side working better.
Okay, so as you mentioned, this is a short-term fix. So what can the government do to solve this problem of not having enough long-term accommodation in the rental market over the long term?
Yeah, same thing that we've already spoken about a number of times, and already again today. It's helping developers and builders um, get developments approved quicker.
What about banning Airbnb and short stay accommodation?
Well, I think that's going a long way. There is a necessity for having short-term rental accommodation, um, and in specific areas, you would hurt. You would especially hurt some tourist destinations during um, some holiday periods where they rly on that short-term rental accommodation to be filled. So yes, we don't want to go banning things, and because we need to think of the second and third level consequences, which I know most politicians don't think of. It's so yeah. It, in saying that, I again wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and start banning things. But in this case, I think this is a good thing. They know that banning short-term rentals would have other consequences, which are not worth going down that road.
So how did I do with the second story?
Yeah, that was a good one. Bit different, bit left field, bit different. So yeah, Airbnb in WA. Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks, Nick.
Better than the first story? So I left my game?
Oh, it's the first story is pretty good. Yeah, more general. This one's a bit more specific, and helping out with some listeners who could be in that market in WA.
Okay, well, our final story is very timely given that you've been talking about supply and demand, and it is bad news on building approvals.
Ugh.
After steadily increasing throughout the year, home building approvals numbers are going backwards again. A total of 15,832 home building approvals were issued in October, which was 6.4% lower than the previous month and 1.8% lower than the previous year, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Over the past 5 years, 956,000 approvals have been issued, which suggests the federal government is unlikely to hit its target to facilitate the building of 1.2 million homes in the 5 years to June 2029. Master Builders Australia CEO Danita Warren said, "There is a clear gap between policy ambition and reality." She added, "Builders are struggling to make the numbers work. Construction costs have jumped more than 40%, and rising finance and insurance costs are pushing too many projects off the table. Without urgent action to ease pressures and restore confidence, more projects will stall before they even start." Owen, my good friend, are you surprised that home building approvals numbers are falling again?
No, not really. And yeah, with this story, it's like you set me up with the first two stories because it's what I've been talking about the whole time. Yeah, not surprised at all that home building approvals are falling because a lot of these underlying factors that are affecting it have just not been addressed properly. With governments, fueling the demand side of things even further um, on various fronts and really not tackling the supply issues. So yeah, not surprising at all.
Danita Warren from Master Builders said, quote, "Urgent action is needed to give developers the confidence and ability to build more." So what sort of urgent action could we take to make that happen?
It's again looking at the government red tape to get approvals through as quickly as possible. And as she said in this in the article there, the rising finance and insurance costs are just pushing too many projects off the table. And this is where governments need to come in and help to underpin these projects and to be able to get them off the ground, to give the confidence to the banks and financial institutions that are going to fund these projects.
Given that building supply is failing to keep up with demand, can we expect the housing affordability problem to get worse before it gets better?
Oh, we're all hoping not, but yeah, there's a good chance it will. And it's if you're already in the property market, then that's a good thing. But if you're looking to get in, then yeah, it's just a sad state of affairs where the government is really letting us down, and and they just don't have any foresight for how to fix this in the long term, and they're just fully focused on trying to keep the economy afloat by importing more people, more immigrants, which just fuels that demand for housing even further, and by not dealing with these supply issues.
I have a confession to make. I'm deliberately restricting the supply of the good stories that I bring to these podcasts because that way it increases demand for my stories.
Oh, I don't know if it works like that, Nick, in this case.
Okay, well, that is our final story in our final podcast episode of the year.
Yes, I forgot.
Quick mark out of 10. How did I do this year?
This year, I'm going to give you a 9.5.
Nine and a half.
I'm pretty impressed with this year. You managed to deliver week in, week out.
Okay, so what did I need to do to have scored a 10? Where did I fall short?
I don't know. It's it's maybe just I hate to say this, Nick, but it's probably just personal presentation. Maybe you need to see some grooming specialists. Maybe one of these people that teach you how to buy clothes for yourself, or I don't know. It's just but in terms of stories, 10 out of 10. There you go.
Well, I have to say I'm slightly upset because I did put on my good pair of socks for today's podcast, and you don't seem to have noticed.
No, well, you've never shown off your socks, so.
Okay, well, room for improvement for 2026.
There you go. All right. Well, looking forward to it. Hope you have a good Christmas holiday period, whatever it is you're going to celebrate over this summer break. Just have a good one.
Thank you for a wonderful year, and I will see you in 2026.